Well, here we are, the iconic San Francisco Spirit, right next to the prison at Alcatraz, the famous site in triathlon history. And the men are off. We've got 3 men jumping. So that means everyone else has dived, but 3 men decide to jump it. It's 2.5 meters from that boat dive ramp. And it's only a 45 centimeter gap that they have to stand on. So it's one of those things where if your feet aren't in perfect position, you will slip and have to jump instead of dive, as we saw. This water, today we've got, if you're looking at your screen, we've got the wind coming directly from behind your back. So it's a westerly wind, but the undercurrent comes from behind the athletes. So that means that the chop, as you can see in your screen, is very high. You'll see that we've got so many support staff out on course. We've got the kayaks, we've got the stand-up paddle boards, we've got the speed boats, we've got the lead boat. The reason why is because this water's dangerous, it's treacherous, and we want to keep the athletes on course today because we really fear that without that they might have gone off course. You can see that the athletes, they're all wearing gloves, booties and thermal caps. That's compulsory today due to the conditions. It's really cold out there. The water has floated between 12 and 13 degrees all week and is that on race morning as well. You can see straight away there's 3 very clear, definitive groups to start the race. And we did expect it to break up, but it's broken up probably even quicker than you would have expected.
But I think these guys have seen the beach, and you can see Ben Canute actually here taking the line very late because these guys want to touch the sand as fast as they can, and they are way back and going to be out first. That is Ben Canute actually, who wasn't off the front.
And Matthias Margier with him, is it?
It's very tricky to tell from here. Rico presenting us some interesting fashion statements here. His cap has just half come off. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as well. Everybody's wearing booties.
Amazingly, we're seeing Sam Long at the very bottom of your screen there with the pink sleeve on his right-hand shoulder. He's only 50 seconds off the lead. That is absolutely insane. Magnus Ditlev, you can see just in front of him, the tall figure who just touched his head then. That's Magnus Ditlev. This group's going to come together very quickly. Magnus and Sam, known as 2 of the strongest bike riders in the field. Everyone expected Sam Long was going to lose 6-7 minutes on this course, but he's 50 seconds down.
This is not what we predicted. Well, maybe it's what Jan Frodeno predicted.
I predicted it with Alex 5 minutes ago. I said the conditions could actually play in his favor because the current is that strong. He just gets washed up and he could be leading out of T1. Who would have ever thought that?
I mean, I bow down to you, Jan Frodeno. I thought this was going to be a race where we saw massive splits in the swim, but that has just not happened at all. And this is now Sam Long's best ever swim in a T100 race, probably best ever in any triathlon race.
It was a 2-kilometer swim and it took 14 minutes.
That is some serious current behind them there.
And that's what Andy Potts was saying, you know, the current was pushing out at something like 4 miles an hour, giving you basically, it's similar to swimming in a river, right? And that just pushes everybody's speed right up. And we're going to see these transitions, but also interestingly, mentally now, for Sam Long, what is he going to do? I think, yeah, he's probably a kid in a candy shop. He just cannot wait to actually unleash the hurt on these front runners.
So we're seeing Martin Van Riel here in the pink. Next to him is Rico Bogan. Matthias Margier's just come there with the orange triangle on his suit. Mika Newt there, Javier Gomez, Rudy Van Berg.
Matthias Margier, interestingly there, still wearing his neoprene cap, so he had a kilometer, which would equate to a good 3 minutes of running, probably, and he still hadn't prepared his transition. He would lose a lot of time here as he just comes out transition. Still ahead of Alistair Brownlee, Clement Mignon.
I've got to admit.
Is that Jason West?
Yeah, Jason West.
Jason West came out of the water with Sam Long.
Can you imagine what Sam Long's thinking right now? He's the most excitable person you'll ever meet in your life. Like, he just gets pumped about waking up in the morning. Can you imagine how excited he is to be in T1 with Alistair Brownlee and pretty much everyone?
Well, that's exactly actually what I was about to say to you, Jack. How, if you're Sam Long now, is the challenge actually controlling your excitement levels because of the fact that he is that excitable character. He's used to coming from behind. He's used to having to do pretty much the whole race on his own. Today, completely different scenario for him, and he's really going to have to just stay calm.
To be honest, I've raced Sam many times, but I've never actually seen him face to face. And I mean, as a referee, this would be a field day in terms of trying to separate the fields and trying to get a clear bit of racing. It's obviously very tactical as well. Alistair here trying to move through the field. We can see he's that much better technically, trying to get an advantage.
Jan, we've just got an update. It's happened again. Sam Long's got a penalty in transition.
My gosh. To Vicky's point,
he's left transition 1 without his helmet done up, and he's got a 30-second penalty.
getting these as Carl Smith stays out of trouble, along with Martin van Riel pushing the pace. Good to see these guys are just staying out of the dynamics at the back. And I think it's a smart move because officials have been told to be stricter and harder on the rules.
Yeah, we've seen how bunched they are further back in that pack and how they're struggling to try and maintain that 20-meter draft zone. And of course, it is slightly different on the hills. You're not getting the same benefit as you would be on the flatter, faster sections, but it's still just a cleaner race if you can just not be in that position where you're possibly getting stuck in those in that 20-meter draft zone. So Martin van Riel playing it smart.
In the back there. Vicky, as you were talking about, the kid on Christmas morning, Sam Long in T1 with his heroes.
Yeah, so just trying to work out what he's done here. So there you go, he's put his stuff in the box, but he hasn't clipped his helmet up. So he's jumped on his bike, and you could see the straps dangling down there. So that is, that's the infringement that he's going to be penalised for.
And we see Magnus Ditlev finally on the back of this group. Of course, this is his strength. It's a fairly long hill. I mean, a mile is actually a long way to climb. On the back of Sam Long, who I am most surprised. I would have thought he would take this by the horns, but maybe he's playing the patient game.
Do you think he just didn't expect to be here? Just did not expect this situation and doesn't almost know how to do the race from being in a pack? He's always coming from behind and just having to blast past any other athlete on the course that he sees. Whereas now he's sort of thinking maybe, well, I'm actually with the people that I wanted to be with. Maybe I can just bide my time. Maybe this is sort of thrown a bit of a spanner in his race plan. So when they were taking their booties off, you could see that some of them had their socks on already.
This is an interesting move. Magnus Ditlev flying past Sam Long. And this is the kind of thing that, you know, Sam is normally really good at, but you know, this is the long climb and Magnus has got big power. He's always very, very mindful of not bringing athletes to the front. So he'll be putting in a big surge for here just because he knows that Sam Long is one of the strong runners and he doesn't want to bring him with him. Showing, oh no, what's going on here? Aaron Royal has handed his bike over the fence. Something's not gone right. He doesn't look hurt. That white suit still looks intact, so he hasn't crashed. Expected to see, you know, reasons may be varying, but yeah, he's obviously got run legs, but he does also have 30 seconds still on the run.
Clement Mignon is going to this front of this race and looks easy. He looks like he's barely breathing, and Rico Bogan looked like he was working pretty hard there. And this is just, it just speaks to that the T100 Tour has so many different courses that suit so many different athletes. And I don't know how many people would have expected Clement Mignon, nearly 60k into a T100 bike ride, to be at the front of it and looking great. Just to let you know, it's Clement Mignon, it's Matthias Margier, it's Rico Bogan, it's Mick Anoud, it's Martin van Riel, Magnus Ditlev, Rudy von Bergen, Sam Long latched on the back of it, like you said, Jan. So that's 8 men together with 10 kilometres to go on the bike. As we see Martin van Riel being overtaken by Sam Long here, he's finally making a move on the bike. We've seen him yo-yo off the back all day. Martin van Riel takes a big look at him there, and Martin van Riel,
and despite his bubbly nature, he's actually internally seems like he's far more composed than he ever was. You know, previously you felt like he was a puppy dog that was all over the show, and now he's going to the front when it actually matters, which is on the very last meters of the race, getting himself a good position to go into T2.
I agree with that, Jan. I used to look at Sam as, yeah, I think puppy dog's a good way to describe it actually, but the maturity and his partner, maybe with the birth of their son and his need to provide, he's big on that. He'll tell you about how much that motivates him. He just seems like a composed, mature person.
The T2 expert.
Lead us, Jan.
All right, here we go. Sam Long actually building a nice little gap. You know, these are little seconds, but he's going to have a rest. And in that rest, he's actually allowed to take on nutrition. As we see Matthias Margier, Carl Smith coming in there, Clement Mignon, Rudy von Berg, Rico Bogan, Mika Noot, Martin Van Riel leaving himself right to the back.
For the helmet.
Obviously confident. So Sam Long is deciding to get changed first. Or maybe he's just taking his penalty a little bit later.
Yeah, well, Patrick, head of operations there, he would have maybe been delivering the message. I'm not sure what the conversation would have been. But you could hear them talking there.
Okay, so we've just had confirmation he can take it anywhere.
Carl Smith is running really well at the moment. We saw him win a race in Chamarine just a couple of weeks ago where he ran through from a strong bike, but ran through to the front of the race. And the way he's running right now, he's sort of leaving Sam behind.
Looked very smooth. He looked like he just found a good rhythm. We're not quite sure. Oh, Alistair Brownlee, he's throwing, well, I wouldn't say he's throwing his bike, but he probably dropped it. Been briefed. They've all been told all these things. And when you're in the pressure, you know, you see he's dropped more than one cup
there, yeah.
And he was getting worried and got a doubt in his mind about the second. Which is still well before the last bin
so
and well before the end, and he stops, and oh, that's really.
I think that billboard you can see beside the bin is probably where the littering zone ends, and so maybe he felt that he was just too close to that.
Well, you want to make sure you don't get disqualified, but I mean, you also want to make sure, you know, he's just basically given his lead away to Martin Van Riel. But let's see what the two can do together once they start running shoulder to shoulder.
Sam Long has chosen to take his 30-second penalty here. Coming out of T2, he was in the lead with Kyle Smith and Martin Van Riel, and you could see that he had dropped back quite a bit, almost the better part of 30 seconds, and now he's out of the penalty box with that extra 30 seconds, so he's going to find himself about a minute, maybe a little bit more. So he's got a lot of work to do, but he has had the two fastest runs so far in both T100 races. So he gave the thumbs up to the crowd. You can see he's still excited and pumped and mentally in the race. Can he make up that minute deficit?
I'd say there's no question that he is gaining on the two leaders. So our duo up ahead is about to become a trio, and the battle for these podium spots is still alive.
We haven't talked about it today yet, but this run course, it does have some unique elements. We've got the dirt that they run through the national park here for long stretches. Very different to traditional triathlon run courses where they're usually on bike paths or on the main bitumen roads through town.
I haven't honestly ever watched Martin Van Riel over this kind of distance racing, but to me, it's hard to make out between the two of them who looks like, I mean, Magnus Ditlev right here, he looks like he's in a heat battle. I mean, the guy, he's got his jersey ripped open. He's been training at altitude in the very cold conditions around Boulder, riding through the snow, the footage we saw. But, yeah, he's just trying to dissipate as much heat as he can as he leads the trio of Mika Noot and Mathis Margerier.
You know, I did think when we saw Magnus Ditlev's face there that he is always known again as someone who doesn't show too much expression on his face when he races. He looks cool, calm, collected all the time. I thought there was a little bit of distress showing on his face as he came into that turnaround. So perhaps not quite feeling his absolute best here today.
And exert himself overly, and we are heading for the very last lap. Three guys at the front. And I couldn't tell you who looks good right now. Whoa.
No, after you. Very polite.
A bunch of gentlemen, but that again shows you everybody seems to be feeling fairly confident. They're now running side by side, which means the pace has dropped off. And this is a game of patience as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be tricky.
They will know now as they see the athletes coming in the opposite direction. Of course, the first athlete coming towards us is David McNamee, so he's been lapped, so he's not a feature in the front end of this race. But as they cross over paths with that trio of Mika Noot, Magnus Ditlev and Mathis Margerier, they'll know that realistically, it's down to them now. They're not going to get caught on this last lap unless they have a pretty huge explosion or someone from behind puts in an absolutely phenomenal last lap. Showing the exertion, the pain, but he's still
Kyle Smith's gone. Kyle Smith's gone. Rico Bogan, can he hold on? He's made his third big effort to try and break the group, but it looks like he's the one who's being broken as they get to the blue carpet.
Oh, my goodness.
This is the final corner coming up right now, and Carl Smith's going to lead into it, but Van Riel is right on his heels.
Carl Smith's gone.
Carl Smith is putting down the hammer. Oh, my goodness. This is the best finish we have seen.
Rico Bogan's pushing up to Martin Van Riel. Can Martin Van Riel overtake
Martin's
him?
coming. Van Riel's coming.
Oh my God.
And for the first time in 15 kilometres, Martin Van Riel's seen the front of the race. The finish line is inside.
They're side by side.
Kyle
Still
Smith,
side
Martin
by
Van
side.
Riel. Martin Van Riel's in front. Martin Van Riel,
Oh
Kyle
my God,
Smith.
he's going
Kyle
on.
Smith.
Oh my goodness! We are going to need an extra camera angle. I think Martin Van Riel.
I think it was Martin Van Riel.
Oh wow!
That's the
That
effort.
is going
That
deep.
is the effort of T100. And we are sat here, or stood here, unsure of who has won a T100 race. For the first time ever, we could not have had a better finish to that race. I don't think a single one of us' heart rate is below about 150 beats. That was extraordinary racing from three classy athletes.
That's
Who
the best race
won?
I've ever seen. That's the best race
Who
I have ever
won?
seen. He's had a tough day and made the most of it. Oh,
Here we go.
look at
Who's going to break the
that.
tape? There you go. That's Martin's
Yeah,
arm,
Martin
Martin's
Van
chest
Riel.
right there
Yeah.
as Kyle just comes
Whoa,
in.
that was...
There
Yeah,
you go.
wow.
That's the
You
better
see it
angle
from
to
there.
See it there.
Who would have thought the T100 is going to have to start introducing side cameras at the finish line? I mean, this is stuff you see at 100-meter sprints that have won in less margins than this.
T100 San Francisco race with the iconic Alcatraz in the background, which Martin Van Riel definitely escaped from today, winning our race in a sprint finish the same time, as you can see, with Kyle Smith and Rico Bogan in third, 3 seconds behind. That is, in my opinion, the greatest sprint finish I've seen since 2008, where Jan Frodeno won the Beijing Olympics. Magnus Ditlev, the robot, Mr. Consistency, in fourth, Mika Noot in fifth, Matthias Margier in sixth, Rudy Von Berg in seventh, Sam Long in eighth, Clement Mignon, the specialist on hilly courses, in ninth, and Peter Hemrich, again, not seeing himself out of the top 10 very often in 10th. You can see here that Sam Long did end up having the fastest bike, which it didn't, when you think about it, he did ride up to the front into T2, which you kind of forget about given that the battle started to happen out in the front. But yeah, we don't see the fastest swim or the fastest run on the screen. They happened outside of the top 10 in Aaron Royal, Rico Bogan, I thought, but maybe Ben Canute ran up.
Ben Canute was
the fastest
first out of the water.
Yeah, and then I guess Jason West must have, or maybe Menno Coolhouse, one of those two must have had the fastest run as well. So crazy day, but what's the story of that day? It's the sprint finish between Martin Van Riel, Kyle Smith and Rico Bogan. That will go down in the history books of triathlon forever.
And Martin Van Riel said it nicely in his interview, you know, he's very good in all three disciplines. He doesn't need to have the best split in any of them as long as he's got the best final split, and that's exactly what he's done. You know, the three at the front playing a tactical game towards the end, could have sort of waiting out the sprint, and that may have slowed the overall pace down a little bit, but they certainly had the quickest last 200 meters. I can tell you that without a doubt.